You know, a lot of people forget that tennis isn't just a sport. It's somewhat of a personality test, just with rackets.
Seriously, you two!
Every player you meet on court, from the guy who refuses to rally more than 2 balls to the one who grunts like he's in a heavyweight title fight, is revealing way more about themselves than they realize. Today, we're breaking down what your tennis style says about you. And trust us, by the end of this video, you'll either feel extremely seen or personally attacked. But before we jump in, if you've ever been accused of playing like Djokovic or serving like Isner, go ahead and drop a like. And you might as well hit that subscribe button too. Let's see which personality type dominates the comments. Alright, let's start with the laziest genius of them all, the serve bot. Now, if you're a serve bot, you don't actually play tennis. Your entire goal is to end the match faster than the time it takes your opponent to finish a warm-up. You hate rallies. You don't want them. You see a 10-ball exchange and think, why are we doing cardio right now? You're the kind of player who treats tennis like a speed run challenge. You step onto court, blast 130-mile-per-hour serves, and if your opponent actually gets a racket on one, you take it personally. You've probably got a beer chilling courtside waiting for you, because deep down, the only thing you're really competing for is how quickly you can clock out and hit happy hour. And aesthetics matter to you. You're all about the fashion. You've got the freshest whites, the latest racket paint job, and a serve motion so smooth it looks like you're auditioning for a Lacoste commercial. You say you don't care about improving your ground strokes, but you secretly know that if you ever actually practice them, you'd be terrifying. Still, why bother? Your serve already wins you free points, and besides grinding, just sounds sweaty. Off the court, you're chill, unbothered, the definition of aloof and cool. You don't get mad, you don't stress, and even if you lose, you shrug it off with, wasn't feeling it today. To everyone else, you're lazy, but to you, you're efficient. The serve and volleyer. The serve and volleyer. Tennis's version of the time traveler. You don't just play the game, you preserve it. You're a walking museum exhibit from the 1980s. You don't like watching modern tennis because, quote, nobody comes to the net anymore. You think the sport peaked in 1987, and your YouTube history is filled with Becker, Sampras, McEnroe, and maybe a little Laver for flavor. You live for the crisp pop of a volley off tight strings, because of course you're going to string your racket at 65 or 70 pounds. You don't care about topspin or baseline exchanges. You care about angles, touch, and swagger. When everyone else at your club is grinding from the baseline, you're sprinting forward like it's Wimbledon 91. You don't play tennis, you conduct a symphony. And the sound of your opponent whiffing a passing shot is your standing ovation. In doubles, everyone fights to have you as a partner. But in singles, well, let's just say people start mysteriously forgetting their rackets that day. You're witty, maybe a little smug, and you can't resist flexing your deep tennis knowledge. You'll casually drop lines like, oh, you know, Pat Cash's net coverage in '87 was textbook. You're always in all white because you believe tennis should look proper. You think polyester neon is a crime against tradition. And off the court, you're the guy people want to grab a drink with, until you start explaining why graphite rackets ruin the sport. Up next, we have the all-court player. Now, if you're an all-court player, your favorite player, without question, is Roger Federer. You probably cried during his retirement speech. You live, breathe, and occasionally pray to the Church of Federer. You've got a pro staff in your bag that you refuse to replace, even though it's basically a museum artifact at this point. You've mastered every area of the court, because you're not just a player, you're a strategist. You think like a coach, move like a dancer, and treat each point like a chess match. Your bag? Immaculate. Color-coded grips, extra overgrips, string savers, and your phone charger tucked neatly in a side pocket. You are that guy. You play with natural gut, of course, even if it costs a small fortune, because feel is non-negotiable. And don't even think about using a dampener. That's sacrilege. You probably run a doubles clinic in your head every time you watch tennis. You can explain patterns of play, variations, and shot tolerance better than half the internet. You're the person other players ask for advice, and you secretly love it. Off the court, you're cheerful, friendly, and sociable. You're the first to offer to hit, but only if it's constructive hitting. None of that mindless bashing. You miss the Nike Fed era so much, you occasionally rewatch his 2017 Australian Open run just to feel something again. You're classy, organized, and your backhand slice could double as a signature. Up next, the attacking baseliner, or aggressive baseliner. You're a walking highlight reel, or a walking disaster. There's no in between. If you're an attacking baseliner, your philosophy is simple. Hit harder. Always harder. You love power. You crave it. If you could measure your life in RPM and ball speed, you would. You grunt so loud people think there's a bear on the loose. Consistency? Well, that's optional. You either crush your opponent 1-0 or shank 47 forehands and lose to someone who moonballs. It's chaos. Beautiful, fiery chaos. You live for the adrenaline rush. The feeling of catching a forehand perfectly on the rise and seeing your opponent just freeze. You'll take that one clean winner over a dozen rallies any day. Your idols? Sinner, Rublev, Kyrgios, players who can obliterate the ball. You watch slow motion compilations of forehand winners like they're ASMR. When a point drags on too long, you get an itch. That inner voice says, just end it. And you do. One way or another. Off the court, you're electric, fun, maybe a little wild. You love parties, you love chaos, and your emotional range swings from let's go to I'm quitting tennis forever in under 3 minutes. You've probably had a few nights you don't remember and a few matches you wish you could forget. But when you're on, you're almost unstoppable. And next we have the solid baseliner. If you're a solid baseliner, you are the backbone of tennis. The reliable one. The glue guy. You live for rallies, you don't need flash, you don't need rhythm. You're the metronome of every match. You take pride in being consistent while also being able to have an aggressive streak. While others are chasing highlight reels, you're out there building a wall. You don't make that many mistakes, but you don't make that many winners either. You model your game after guys like Djokovic, Medvedev, or David Ferrer. Efficient, relentless, calculated. You believe in patterns, discipline, and percentages. You might not have the biggest serve or flashiest shot, but your opponents dread playing you because they know they'll have to earn every single point. You bring an analytical mindset to the court. You adjust, you adapt, you take notes. You might even have a journal where you record match stats, and yes, you've definitely color-coded it. Off the court, you're grounded, stable. People describe you as quietly intense. You don't talk trash, you just let your results speak for themselves. You don't party much, but you do celebrate with a well-earned smoothie. And you'll go home early because you have practice at 8 a.m. sharp. You're not trying to wow anyone, you're trying to win. And you usually do. And finally, probably the most hated, and maybe the most effective, might even be the most misunderstood species in tennis, the counterpuncher, aka the pusher. If you're a counterpuncher or pusher, everyone secretly hates playing you. And maybe not so secretly for some. But every team desperately wants you. You are the human embodiment of make one more ball. You don't just retrieve shots, you recycle them into despair. Your matches take 4 hours, involve 0 highlights, and end with your opponent questioning all of their life choices. You don't win because you dominate. You win because you refuse to die. You drag people into the trenches and make them live there until they break. You don't even like your own game sometimes. You wish you could end points faster, but your brain won't let you. You have a disease called I can't miss. Off the court, you're calm, friendly, almost too nice. You'll shake hands after a 6-4, 7-6 war like, good match, while your opponent is still trying not to cry. You're the nicest airhead in tennis, blissfully unaware of how much emotional trauma you cause your opponents. You don't brag, you don't flex, you don't analyze, you just win, and you never miss. And in the end, maybe that's all that matters. So which one are you? The chill serve bot, the classy all-court player, the sociopathic counterpuncher? Let us know in the comments and be honest, because we will judge you. If you liked this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your doubles partner, especially if they're the kind of player who refuses to rally and only shows up for serve practice. This is Hot Take Tennis, and remember, your game says way more about you than your mouth ever will. See you next time.